Hello. Yes, it is me, Rufus King. Now, if you didn't notice, there's a picture of Jeff the Killer on the screen now. You may know the original story, which has many faults. That's because it's not true. The story was a fake and made up. Now, you may think all creepypastas are made up, but you are very wrong. As you are about to hear the untold and true story of Jeff. After all, I experienced the terror for myself. Jeff, as the story goes, apparently just happened to one day turn psychiatric. That doesn't happen. Jeff was always a troubled boy. He lived on a third-story apartment floor next to me. Now, I would often hear screaming from him and slaps of abuse from his older brother. Now, obviously, I would often try to help when I could, as I was around his age, but I was always nervous. When I finally did get the chance, Jeff was out with his brother. They were at the store, talking to some people, and Leo had been doing some really bad stuff. But obviously, Jeff had to take the blame for, well, a drug deal that Leo had been involved with. As I saw the police were getting involved, I arrived to stop them. Leo shoved me back and punched me in the face. Jeff said stop, Leo, but Leo didn't stop. He kept violently kicking me until I shoved him off, and then Jeff kicked him in the Achilles tendon, and I heard a sickening crack, and I knew that wasn't the only thing he'd kicked him in. I heard him keel over in pain and fall to the ground. It took one hit, and that was all it took. Now, I knew Jeff had been fighting with Leo before, but this was the only time I'd actually seen him fighting back. This scared me, but at the same time, I was glad that Jeff had finally fought back and stood up against him. I asked for some help up from him, but he didn't even seem to reply. He just stood there creepily smiling. Now, while Leo was in jail, Jeff's parents had been away on vacation, and Jeff had to stay with me. I was basically I was around his age, but only 2 years older than him. He said he needed to go in the bathroom, and I was making dinner. My parents were away on the weekend, but it wasn't that bad. I'd been home alone many times before, and it wasn't that bad. I heard sickening blood splatter. Or I thought it was blood splatter, but I heard sickening splatters and sounds of knives scraping. I heard screams and pain and agony from me of the bathroom, and it was only me and Jeff in the house. I ran in, and I saw him cutting. Not only his face, but his eyelids. His eyelids had been cut off, and I knew it wasn't the work of some psychiatric maniac. Well, it's not including Jeff, that is. Now, I immediately rushed him out, and Jeff did not hesitate. He was crying all the way to the hospital and didn't know what he had done. Didn't know what he had done to himself, and he was terrified. He was put into a psychiatric ward, and I haven't seen him in years. But he kept crying and crying all the time during the surgery to try and stitch his face back, but he had completely mutilated it, and there was no real skin, like substitutes for the eyebrows. And he lost a lot of blood during his surgery, so his face, by the loss of his blood, his skin turned leathery and icky, just gross, and it was terrifying to look at him when he was in the psychiatric ward. I would visit him often for certain months, but when I found out he had escaped, I knew it wasn't a coincidence. Somehow, some way, Jeff had escaped, and I knew that he would be coming for me. I didn't know why, I just knew. Like, I was the reason he was in there. And that wasn't good for me. I constantly watch my back now in fear that he could be anywhere, at any time, anywhere. And everyone who's hearing the story should fear for their life too.